sort out the lighting. Oh, hey, thank you. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. I'm streaming on various sites at the moment. I'm just trying to work out how the fuck to pop out my chats because for some strange fucking reason it's not working. There we go. Oof. Slowly but surely getting there. Two secs. Thank you. Let me just sort this fucking chat shit out because it's really stressing me out. Once I've got that sorted. Fuck. Oh, thank you. Well, because I'm streaming on various sites, I don't think that language is allowed. Hate to burst that bubble. Just want to go to my fucking channel. Here we go. Here. Yeah, because I'm currently streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and Odyssey. So, yeah. Sorry if I can't. I'm gonna do that later because that's just not the moment, not the time. But let's get to this. Sorry, 2 secs. Slowly but surely getting there. Ow. Oh my god, yeah, the sun's gone down because I was getting a bit fucking intense. Sorry this is taking so long. Getting there. Just gonna set up the screen. Hey everybody, how are you guys? Gracias. So, I guess depending from what channel you are joining me from, once you find the topic of what I'm here to chat and kind of share with you guys may differ on who actually stays online. Because I guess a lot of people will probably find it quite boring, but it's something I find interesting and I look forward to sharing this with you guys and learning a little bit more of just, yeah. Why the fuck is this not working? So yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I'll introduce myself. I'm Tina, aka like my Versace, and I've been working online kind of on and off since 2020. I previously kind of like got interested in understanding the dynamics of the kinky underworld of the internet. I wanted to understand what it meant for me as a lady in the 21st century. Hey. And yeah, I was kind of wanting to explore the dynamics of this old age industry, which I guess has kind of existed since the beginning of time. And I'd seen a lot of my peers getting involved in this kind of work, and yeah, was like heavily encouraged that it's a very futuristic way to sustain yourself, to be able to live off the internet in a variety of ways. I found myself at that kind of point quite talentless with what I could actually share on the internet. Like tutorials and stuff. I obviously had no fucking clue on what I could offer. But in the meantime, I met some friends, and finally Odyssey is working. 2 seconds. So how do I just need to get the pop-out chat just in case anyone's wanting to chat. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Pop-out chat. Splendid. Splendid. We are ready to roll. So just so everyone knows, I am currently streaming on 5 sites. You can find me on my Instagram, where I have my link tree, and I think most of my websites have my link tree there as well. I 2 seconds. I'm just trying to like make everything fit on my fucking tiny ass screen. So I'm on Odyssey, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitch, Chatter, and Theta TV. If you have any questions as to what any of those links are, let me know, and I'll be happy to divulge. So yeah, I kind of wanted to start doing these channels because I want to start kind of doing these channels because I feel with everything that's happened in the past couple of years as a global human race that we have kind of finally become, we should be able to kind of converse about where we're going and what is this internet world and all its dynamics. What is, let's say, well, I'm going to get to the brunt of it. Like I started listening to this podcast recently called The Oldest Profession in the World. And for those of you that do or don't know, obviously it's hugely debatable, but it's like tokened as prostitution as one of the oldest professions in the world. So yeah, coming back to like a couple of years ago when I was hanging out with some friends, and I met this chick who was doing very well on OnlyFans and various other sites, and we were all living together, and she was like, try it out, set it up, this is how you do it, blah blah blah. I did it. Also in my link tree on my Instagram, like my Versace underscore, on my link tree there, you can get a link to my OnlyFans, which has been inactive, by the way, for quite some time. I'm going to start uploading these videos onto my Odyssey, YouTube, and onto OnlyFans. I'm going to, I think, for the next year, if not 6 months, depending on how this develops and how financially stable I am in my personal life, um, leave the content that I have there. I have to still edit a lot of my live shows from my chatter days, like my PVTs. So they will be going up onto OnlyFans, but I don't intend on keeping that content up for very long. So I do recommend, if you're into those kind of things, no judgment, I made them. Please feel free to subscribe and check out that before it disappears. Other than that, yeah, I want to talk to this variety of channels um, that have obvious different focuses on their consumption of the internet. What where do you think you're going? Where do you feel we're going? This is kind of like a pilot episode. I have done a very brief overview of like research and what it means to me, historically, what it means, and how I personally, through the history that I've been learning, being able to understand where we're at and where we're going, and the opportunities that we have to really kind of take something which I've learned to be quite sacred and what humanity needs in a level of survival, like sex and needs are human. It's our basic, like almost straight before or after um, food and water is sex. You know, we all yearn for it in some way or another. So I kind of look forward to developing those ideas and needs with you guys and gals and everyone in between. So yeah, like I think best place. So yeah, I'll continue with my history, I guess. If anyone's interested, if you can like type something, if you're listening, if you're tuned in right now, type something, type a smiley face or letter or whatever it is. Like I've, yeah. So if you're interested in my history, I will commence. If not, I'll go into what I've kind of been discovering historically. Anyone? Any thoughts? One or the other, let me know. Ideally, if viewers could let me know like what they would. If not, it's totally cool. So yeah, I guess everybody will probably be more interested in my personal history than the actual history, and we'll probably get round to that as I'm talking about it. So yeah, my personal history, I guess. As I said, I was hanging out with this crew of folk. I already had, before I got to that point, a personal interest, but I was completely clueless. I was completely unaware. I had no idea how to enter this world in the best kind of safest way, I guess, because obviously jumping into these type of things isn't just something that any old person can or maybe should do. I think I was looking for answers as to what is this industry and how it consumes so many people, not just the ones that actually consume it, but those who create it, how it consumes them. Probably more from the kind of horror story basis of things. I was kind of wanting to understand how people get into this, because I'm probably going to say something that I'm going to get cancelled for throughout these chats. But But I saw so many of my friends involved in this world, and although they were making lots of money, and although they had SaaS, and although they were doing so well, I did see a lot of my friends just kind of interiorly like miserable. And I just didn't understand why people would choose this world that caused so much pain in the long run. Um, so I was like, fuck it. This isn't a type of conversation I feel like I can have with them. So I'm just going to jump into it and find out what the fuck is going on for myself, and how easy, how hard it may be to be a porn creator. So yeah, we all moved out to the countryside into this big house. Um, I worked out how OnlyFans worked. I was doing like personal shows. Like I said, have a lot of content still there. Taking on requests, working out how to use various platforms like Tinder, and meeting people globally to be able to um, wrap myself up in this kind of world and be the person that people wanted to consume from, I guess. Um, and I can't ever really say it was fun because it wasn't. I found it really distressful. I think the OnlyFans, and then um, yeah, I think obviously, like I'm gonna be blatantly obvious. Like I was no good at it. Like although like obviously people liked what I did, I just found it really unfulfilling. And I felt like I had so much more to who I am and what my life is. And I get it, people are great at it, people love to express themselves that way. But let's be honest, like a good 99% of people that are in the industry creating sexual content are in it for the money. You know, they weren't just like, oh, mom, I want to grow up and be a porn star. You know, like there's probably 1% of people that are actually in that genuine mindset. So for me, it was kind of like interesting to understand kind of the trap, I guess, when you get into that world. And so yeah, I was exploring all these things. I ended up working for a studio um, in Bogota, where I was doing just my early works. And it's really strange because, like, you think that everyone's going to be a dick, but a lot of people on Chatter were really nice. Like, a lot of people are genuinely interested in who they're talking to, and obviously, it's not a whole bunch of bots that just kind of need to get off. It was actually quite nice to meet people from all over the world under these new dynamics, and just kind of being like, cool, you are a male, female needing a relief from life, a relief from a moment, a relief from an emotion, from a sensation, like a physical need. Um, so yeah, I got to meet a lot of wonderful people that I'm really grateful that I did, because I guess my experience would have been fucking horrendous if everybody was an absolute asshole. Um, so yeah, then I went on to like I stopped after a while because then I was like moving cities a lot and I was traveling a lot and I couldn't really start again. And then I then went on to another studio closer to my flat, and had a similar experience. Wonderful people on Chatter, um, and really enjoyed just kind of having money and getting to know people from around the world. Physically, it's exhausting, but there's a lot more exhausting works, I think. And I think that was one of the things that annoyed me a lot about um, I guess my peers is just kind of the vulnerability that you have to sell to actually be accepted or be needed, or yeah, because when they were out with this kind of context, I saw them as like really powerful people. So it kind of annoyed me that one of the first things that you have to sell, other than your body and your sexual content, is like your vulnerability. And obviously, you've got DOMs. Obviously, there's a whole world of things where it's completely the opposite. But I did feel that kind of got to me a little bit, and it pissed me off. But yeah, I feel like my history is done. I kind of stopped recording online a while ago, and now I'm just had the content, like I said, on OnlyFans. I have some new content that I need to put up from those days that I had my live shows, so I'll put that up. Anyway, so as for the history of the oldest profession in the world, obviously debatable because there was like farmers and hunters and gatherers, etc. I feel that my I forgot to mention, like, I also kind of entered the world of shibari during that time, which I will be doing live streams of shibari on all these channels. I don't know if I'll be able to do it on Chatter, because Chatter, my friend, my dom, I guess, in that situation, who ties me up, I don't think he's registered with Chatter, so he won't be able to come online. So if you want, you can follow me on my Instagram and check out my link tree, and then all those shows will be on YouTube, Odyssey, Twitch, and Theta TV live, with uploads going on to YouTube and Odyssey. So anyway, not to get sidetracked, but on so shibari sessions on Tuesday, I'll probably be announcing on my Instagram, which is the same as my all of the rest of my URLs, like my Versace underscore. I'll be announcing when we'll be doing the live show of my shibari. If you see my Instagram, you'll see all the past shibari like things that I've done. And we have a lot of dates coming up soon, so they're always really fun to watch live, and also like I said, they'll be on Odyssey and YouTube. I think when I got into shibari, it was kind of during that time when I was also exploring like what is Chatterbait, what is OnlyFans, how can I survive off these platforms, and I kind of liked it because it was very sensual at the same time, but it meant that I had some sort of kind of like physical restriction to that sensuality. Not that I was looking for it. I kind of enjoyed the whole mental game, I guess, that comes with it, of just being like, you have to be fucking hardcore to go through shibari, I guess. Like, it's really it's yeah, just hanging by like your ankle for a good 15 minutes is not exactly the easiest thing in the world, but I think for when I was streaming, it really helped me kind of meditate a little, I guess, with everything that I was kind of trying to explore within the kind of kinky underworld. So yeah, recently when I was like, okay, I'm not going to sell any sexual live content from here on out. It'll just be what's already been uploaded onto my Only. I decided that I'm going to actually like reach out and just talk to people. I'm going to talk to people that already follow me on Chatter, and I'm going to open up these new platforms with like YouTube and Odyssey and find out where everyone's mentally at, because we all have like different connections to sensuality, I guess. That we all have different needs, wants, and desires of how we want to express our sexuality. I think that was also like another thing. I really enjoyed being naked. I really enjoyed taking nudes, and it wasn't necessarily for anybody. It was like for me. I enjoy being like sexy. I enjoy being femininely sexy. But I wanted to understand how people interact and consume that. And I was like, ooh, I can make money off it too. Wow, great. That's what I need to like live off right now. So cool. So yeah, anyway, when I was started kind of going through this evolutionary period of my mentality of just like, okay, so I've done that, skimmed it. Like I haven't done it hardcore. I'm going to be honest. But I've done enough that I was willing to kind of like divulge in to kind of say like, okay, I kind of get the gist of what this is. And I was like, okay, so where did this come from? How did we get here? Does it really make people happy? The people that are like consuming it. Do you feel grateful for the people that you interact with? And I know there's great stories. But then you kind of go into like the world of sugaring and shit like that, and I don't know. I think I just had this whole kind of internal battle of just like I could go into so many tangents here that could so piss people off. But yeah, I think the sugaring world kind of annoys me a little bit. Just because it ends up going into really. I think we're just like creating a world of really false people, like just really empty souls, instead of like something that I thought was supposed to be fulfilling people. You know, like somebody at home got home from work and they're alone and they're tired and they want to interact with somebody. But it's all under a kind of sexual pretense, and it's kind of sad. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't want to offend anybody with the things that I'm saying. I just mean it's kind of sad in the sense that like we are this globalized planet of like interconnecting people with so many like diverse ideologies and perspectives and passions in life that that's kind of under the context that we kind of find ourselves in. And then the other extreme is like gaming, which is like another kind of, what's the word? Tunnel vision um, into something that I'm like, does that really make anyone happy? So yeah, anyway, so any questions, any comments, feel free to just chuck them somewhere. Anyway, so I started kind of researching history and I was like, okay, so where did this all start? Where did this all kind of come from? And then I was also looking up statistics, but I also have, you need to have like a certain amount of money to have those statistics. Wait a minute, fuck. I just lost you. Yeah, to be able to have those statistics, I need to buy a membership, and it's currently at like $30 a month. So yeah, I barely have enough to pay my bills, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. So yeah, like I was looking up like the OnlyFans statistics, like dynamics from people in the world. And I don't know, I think like I'm genuinely inspired in creating. Okay, so going back to the whole history thing, where these kind of like sexual consumptions, other than just, you know, hunter gatherers and going out to breed because you're in the fucking Stone Age or whatever, when the dynamics of like sex as a consumption, what I've come to understand from the very little that I've managed to research is it became very ritualistic, and those rituals primarily kind of just came from. Also, if anybody has like knowledge on this, like call me out, send me links. Grateful for anybody's perspective or ideas. Like I'm here to share with you guys and not dictate what I believe. I really love having my opinion changed and evolving. So yeah, bring it on. So yeah, anyway, I yeah, like from the need to reproduce as a species, I started understanding that it became like as societies started getting like tribes, etc., started getting larger, we started using sex as a ritual, and those rituals were in the basis and the needs of reproduction. I feel like the dynamics of when the reproduction almost became secondary, and the need for like tension and like physical release um came about. I think that was, wait, I've got some facts here. um yeah, fuck, I had a notebook with like my basic facts. um so yeah, like it was kind of from, oh yeah, so like in the fucking what Greek historians, you had in 2400 BCE, you had the sacred prostitutions, and they're the temples. They're the where the women would be in a temple, always for a fertility deity. And again, it was just going back to fertility needs. You know, it wasn't really anything that people were. Well, that's the whole thing. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. Now that sex education and is becoming like more and more present in schools, I'm in this kind of inner battle and conflict on like how important it is and how unimportant it is. Because I've been watching people that have been commenting on how like sex education for kids is bad because it just makes them more sexually active at younger age, etc., etc. But actually, I believe, like I started a fashion collection. I started doing like porn from like old porn magazines that I found like under my dad's bed when I was like a teenager. And then I started like putting them on jumpers and t-shirts, and yeah, you can find that in my Instagram, Civil Daggers, which will have the new collection out soon. So yeah, I was going through a process when I was making that collection of just like how sex education is taught to kids. And during that moment, like before I started watching all these other contexts of just like teaching kids this is bad because it ends up introducing them to things too early, and like, you know, out of sight, out of mind, they can just be kids a little bit longer and learn how to be just sexually aware in their own needs. But I also do believe that female masturbation, gracias. I do feel female masturbation is something that needs to be spoken about more. And then I don't mean in like a sexual context for consumption. I mean just for like a release. Like, I was thinking about this when I was younger. I obsessed over guys. Like, I was one of those girls that was just like, oh my god, he's so cute, and oh, had the boyfriend and was like, oh, blah blah blah. And I think in the same way that guys probably have all this like sexual tension like caught up in them, um, they they tend to kind of pent it up and have a wank. You know, it's like a very natural, like, I would be really appreciative if anybody would be willing to share those, like, first wank stories or like first sexual experience stories. I know that mine wasn't the best. I was very, very young and it was out with my consent, and it led to many things within my youth that I ended up in one way or another hurting people. Um, so I think all my sexual journey stemmed from a very young age, much younger than it needed to be, and not in the best of contexts. And I think that's what's kind of led me down this path of being like, what the fuck is sex? Why do we need it other than reproducing? And feeling, yeah. So going back to that, I was just like, if girls were taught just like guys were, that when you feel tension, or just energy, you know, I'm not a guy, so I don't understand what that feels like, but I do relate to possible situations that I, in my past, when I was younger, if I was just told like, oh, go have a wank, you know, um, I would have been able to like level my head and control a lot of my like emotional um moments that I feel were controlled by possible sexual tensions. And I don't necessarily mean, um, I don't mean in like a pure child porn like way. I just mean like if guys can have a wank when they're at fucking fifth grade at school, because I don't know if that's too young, whatever, um, because they're feeling some tension, bodily natural tension, why the fuck are girls not taught that same mindset that I hate using like empower us, but like not necessarily empower us, but just like take control of our own emotions, because at the end of the day, girls are fucking emotional, you know, especially pre and post and during their time of the months, you know. And if you were told like, fuck, okay, like if I were to have a wank during uh those moments of my time, I would probably be a lot more level headed. I'd probably be a lot more like avispada, you say in Spanish, like just on the ball. In times that I just ended up, um, todo bien, gracias. Yeah, so I kind of, I was kind I wish that I do believe that sex and sexual education is necessary, but it's just such a very thin line on how to educate people about that. And I feel like it should possibly maybe even be like a stem from biology. You know, like if you have people in biology who are willing to talk about like how a baby comes out a fucking vagina, and how like a guy needs to fuck a girl to create a baby. Why are we not taught in schools about our chemicals in our brain and our body that make us feel certain things and urges that we can't necessarily control, if we're not taught to? You know, if we were taught equally, guys, girls, and everybody else in between, however you may identify, um, how do you control that, and not get consumed by your own energy? Um, so yeah, I feel that is something that needs, and it should also be taught in history a little bit, because when I was like skim reading, I'm sorry, because like I was gonna do this last week. I have a brain like a sieve, and I was like so on the ball and ready with all my facts, but like, ugh, it's been a long week. So yeah, I kind of like should have gone back to my notes before I started this, but I didn't, and I can't even find the notebook, which I thought was next to me. Um, so yeah, I don't stream on Streammate, by the way. I just have a Streammate mug because I went to a conference with my old studio. So yeah, I was learning just the whole history rituals. And then it was kind of 2 seconds. I like need to find these notes because I just feel I had a lot of really interesting points developed, like from the chronological aspect of how oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, because I was starting to like understand how we got to this point from the notes that I fucking took that just managed to just disappear from all existence. Yeah, where is everyone from? I'm genuinely interested. Everyone who's managed to keep on listening to this absolute horrendous chat I'm giving out. I'm so sorry in advance if you were expecting something else. Oh hey, thanks babes. Yeah, I like what I remember being taught at school was just like how to put a condom on a wooden dildo. Like that was like sex ed. It was just like don't have sex. You know, had probably majority of guys here, but for the females or the guys that have had partners that have made them watch Mean Girls, like it's kind of like that guy in Mean Girls who's just like don't have sex. You will get pregnant and die. You know, just like this extreme, like when you get taught about drugs education at school, and it's like, don't take drugs because you will die, you know? Yeah, like I feel that is such an uneducated way to educate kids, you know? Yeah, exactly. So someone's just said, like, I think it's a battle between parents and teachers about whether this should be taught at schools and how much it should be taught. Like, exactly. Um, that's kind of like my point. Is like, kind of parents should be talking about it with their kids, but we've kind of we're living in a system now where we're just like giving um I don't have children by the way, but we're giving our kids, youth, younger generations away mentally, you know, like we don't come from a moment in time where you have like the grandmothers and the aunts and the uncles and all these people involved in the upbringing of your children. We're very secluded now, you know, which for me has been like weird. Sorry, I'm like still looking for this fucking notebook. Um, yeah, that's for me been quite strange because I come from like I'm half Scottish, I'm half Colombian, and I come from an upbringing where I what is it here? No, where like I'm closer to my third cousin in Colombia than I am to like my brothers and sisters that lived round the corner from me. And I think that was like a weird, like that was hard for me to like understand, I guess. Like family, you know, like people that literally are family and live around the corner from you are more distant than like people who live on the other side of the world from me. So I think that took that like kind of and what happened to me when I was younger, ironically happened to me when I was in Colombia. Um, yeah, it's we are more secluded, but we are also exposed to better educational standards and information. It just needs to be dismantled better for people. Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly kind of the point. We do need to find kind of better ways to, but that's kind of where I'm going from, like the whole family point, you know, like the educational system globally has gone to shit. Like what people are getting taught in schools is just so dictate, like it's like a dictatorship, you know, like this is what history is, you know, and we've completely blanked out most of, hey Lukita, um we have blanked out most of our what's it called, like racial history, you know, like there's a reason that there's like Black History Month now, because we have completely hidden the fact that large proportions of our history were founded on slavery, you know, and you don't hear about that when you're learning about like World War II and the destruction of this, and it's all being very glamorized, you know. It's like, I remember when I was at school, it was like Egyptians, Romans, and then World War II. That's it. And then you got told, like, I went to school in Scotland, so it was like William Wallace and the Vikings. But then it wasn't like, oh, okay, so Buchanan Street was built by slave trade. You know, the Merchant City was built by tobacco slave trade from the Caribbean. You know, like you don't get taught the reality of how we got here and who we are in this kind of like spectrum of identity, you know, because there's fewer and fewer 100% native people to any country anymore. You know, we like Spain is a melting pot. Like Spain is one of the biggest melting pots historically, as to like had um Romans, they had so oh god, sorry. Um, I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I do agree with that learning about more controversial parts of our history is good, not just for more awareness, but also to not repeat the same mistakes. Yes, but wait, what bit do you not agree with? Um, because yeah, just so I can rework possibly what I meant with what I said. Um, do you mean like you don't agree with the way that our history is being taught? Like, well, put it this way, like, I don't agree with that certain controversial parts of our history have been hidden. I do. Like, from my education, I don't know where you're from. Sí hablo español. Eh, um, because I had no clue that half my city was literally built. Yeah, like I was educated in Glasgow, Scotland. Glasgow, Scotland is one of the biggest merchant cities historically for the UK. Like parts of the Titanic was built there. There was huge investors in the Caribbean during that time. Like Scottish is identity. Um, gracias. Scottish identity that are based on this huge part of history that I've had to learn through YouTube, that I've had to learn through complete, like, books would never like tell me that. I've had to learn it through like Black History Week, where they would show us exactly how many slave ships arrived, exactly how many people arrived, and yeah, how they were treated. And that would have never been shown if it wasn't like, I would have never learned that at school. I would have never known that one of the most popular streets in Glasgow was built by slaves. You know, like my school would have never told me that. You know, so I feel for us to have, and I think that kind of comes back to like how we can identify with other people and how we consume other people. Like it's not uncommon to think that like a Latino person in the, it's a very stereotypical generic thing, that a Latino person in the States is an immigrant and is going to be cleaning your toilets. You know, like, it's a horrible thing to say. I don't want to believe that reality, but it is a huge reality. Obviously, there's amazing Latinos that are fucking very predominant in various industries, but that is the stereotype, you know. And through education, understanding like a little bit more of how people came to be in countries. You know, like, Latino people existed before Gringo, you know, before the UK ever went and conquered that country. And because of this history that we're taught at schools of who's better in the hierarchy and who conquered and who raped, pillaged, and, you know, sent people to go find gold and food and the XYZ, is how we today consume on these platforms that I'm talking about, like Chatterbait and stuff. You know, it's like there's even a thing for like Latinos, and there's what we're like seen as a identity of consumption. You know, obviously there was a huge category, and I remember when the whole thing in Ukraine happened and I was still working in my studio, and like, the girls were like, oh yes, Ukrainians aren't going to be working anymore in Chatterbait, so we're going to get so much more work, you know, because there was a huge category for that aesthetic, for that Scandinavian beauty. So yeah, I think I do believe it's got a lot to do with how we're educated at school and how we perceive people as like commodities, I guess. You know, it's just like, well, you come from that part of the world, so you need to be like making our food. And because, you know, I mean, like, Europe's, most of their food comes from third world countries, and third world countries are densely populated in these type of workforces, you know, because opportunities aren't given to them to start a business through Business Gateway and get a funding because they wrote a good. Do you know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't exist, you know. Like, and if it does, it's in a very, very small scale, and it's aimed at people that already have a background in understanding how to make that accessible to them. So yeah, I think, totally sidetracked here, but I enjoy it. Yeah, kind of going back to the school education. Yeah, I think if history was better distributed, in the sense that, yeah, well, there is. It's like point blank that there is institutional racism in society and education. There's no other way of putting it. Like, there is. But racism, I don't believe, would exist if we weren't educated to be racist. You know, if we weren't educated to be like, oh, those people work for us, you know, because they come from a third world country. It's not like, yeah, it's kind of like, and it's almost like happening here in Colombia as well, because I'm currently in Colombia. I've been since pandemia. Like, I've been staying here, and I think it's been hard for me to see the indoctrination of just how people need to accept their place within society and within this world. And it's been so embedded in people's minds that this is who we are as a level of consumption. And I think that's why there is such a huge Latino like base within the sex industry, you know. And it's something that I was one of the main reasons that I kind of got myself into this, because I wanted to just understand, like, how do we keep on letting this happen? You know, how do we keep, like, again, going back to the whole history thing, like, when there was these temples of like sacred rituals for fertilities and things, we started kind of going into the Greek age where um, things were a bit more lavish, and they were a bit more kind of like just kind of before the kind of Roman Christian times. Um, and they start talking about the beast, and there was, oh, God, I really need to find this fucking notebook because I wrote down the name of like this prostitute who had a lot of like, not wealth, but she had a lot of not not power, but like a wee bit of power, just in the sense that it was like she was obviously the top of the kind of prostitution food chain, and a lot of kings and nobles would come to her, not just for like her sexual work, but also for her knowledge and her brain, and just the way that she had this information on so many people and had a very wide perspective of like how things could be developed, probably in her own needs. It is part of why the attitudes of many people are not that good, and society social values has to do with it as well. The battle between various sides in politics, which often antagonize their members against each other. Wealth inequality has to do with it as well. Well, obviously, but wealth inequality is created by the people who are kind of like manipulating how we identify ourselves and each other, you know, because wealth and inequality, like I believe that it's such a long history of how we got to who's wealthy and who's not, and what wealth is, to kind of put it bluntly. You know, like, we still associate wealth with money, you know, this like thing that you can't necessarily eat, like, kind of, if we're going to go like pure apocalyptic with it, like, we could be going into World War III, we could be going into a second round of pandemia. What is wealth in those terms? You know, like, wealth is your health, wealth is your abundance to feed yourself and your family. It's land is wealth. Like, I think that is, and because of our misconception of what wealth is, I think we have kind of lost our understanding of what wealth is, you know? So it's like, I think it's more just a consequence of our capitalist system. I try to remain optimistic. Oh yeah, obviously we have to be optimistic, but we can't be stupid either. Like, it's very evident that we're not going into the best of moments globally. And if I look at even the people that stream on the rest of these sites, like, what will happen to a lot of people, you know? And it's poverty, you know? Like, if energy cuts out, you know, like, where are a lot of these people going to make their money? A lot of people use chatterbait, for example, because it's not a physical contact job, you know, and it'll be very, very different perspective if it does become like that. You know, like, a lot of my generation are living off this, you know. Yeah, we should have a universal basic income. I do believe that. But um I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I was like, we shouldn't have to necessarily pay for food or water. You know, like, I feel through history and time, before there was like a monetary system, people still ate. People still drank water. You know, there was a system in place to make that um, adequate for a large majority, a large majority of society, you know? So I do believe like basic like food and water should be free. And then possibly we could evolve into um like restaurants will still need to exist, etc. And I think it's important to have a creative flair with our consumptions. But I do believe that like it's, it's the countries that produce food that are going hungry, you know, and that to me just doesn't make sense. You know, like countries are burning their food that they can't that have passed their ripe dates, rather than like sharing it with tribes that are still existing scarcely in remote areas of countries. And yeah, the system of bartering has nearly always existed in some form though. Yeah, well, exactly. I think it's just that. I think there's just so many tangents that are going to be kind of developing over time, I guess, which we still need for a very long time, I think, before we reach some kind of a utopian society where money isn't so important. I think money is always going to kind of exist. Like, I'd, I'd love to live in utopia, it would be amazing, but it's not gonna happen. You know, like money's going to exist. You know, there's going to be some form of like commerce. It's just how, because I've always used the kind of example between um like Scottish farmers and Colombian farmers. You know, like Scottish farmers have a lot of money. Like they do really, really well. But Colombian farmers, like they're lucky if they can even feed themselves. You know, and it's all got to do with the middleman. You know, like Scottish farmers go direct to consumer. You know, they have their farmer markets, they have these huge like connections within the national the country that they can support themselves, their families, send them to private education, send them to like the best of universities. But in Colombia, like if a farmer's child even gets through school, it's like a miracle, you know? And I think that's kind of hard because then they end up kind of working in these industries that I'm kind of trying to understand, or like I don't know, like sex industry is always going to work, always going to exist. I mean, do you think humanity will become utopian eventually? Do I think humanity will become utopian eventually? Oh, thank you. um mm, I in my heart I want to say yes, but in my mind I know that it's not. um and also kind of like, what is utopia? You know, like what does it mean to so many different people? Like utopia could be a kind of like avatar world where we're all like flying about on fucking dragons and shit. But I think forever it's going to, for example, Brazil with this kind of leftist new president, I think is going to be interesting in how that develops. And I should have more faith in humanity. I know, like, but this is what I mean, like with the guy from Brazil who's like this left wing um, president, or prime minister, president, I think it's over there, and he is talking with the Amazonian tribes. He's stopping deforestation. He's investing a lot more in protecting the national heritage of like the Amazon, the lung of the planet, you know. And I think that's important. I think that's a step towards utopia. It's trying to, because like yes, utopia could happen. You know, we could just turn around and say like hunter gatherer, like whatever animals still exist that we haven't left to extinction. Um, we can survive off of. We need to start creating a lot more. Stop building. We need to stop building. I feel we have too many buildings. If you're there's like a little from here until next week. I have a homework for you. Walk around your city and count within every street how many buildings are empty, how many houses are for sale and for rent, and have been so for more than 6 months. So there is a global housing crisis. And how many people are on the street, depending on which country you're in? Like I'm in Colombia, there's a huge, there's a majority of people that are on the street. And it's not just like homeless people. There's the people from the Amazon that have been, because of Colombia's conflict that has been going for almost 70 years now, that has displaced a large population of Colombian farmers, Colombian tribes. Yeah, so I kind of went on a tangent, got lost there. So I kind of feel that with the whole utopia thing, we could easily end up going into a fantastic utopia, but it's kind of the people that don't know how to survive if it's not getting money and paying for something. It's having to re-educate them most of all. And like, what is a house? What do you need in your house? Like, can you have a herb garden? Do you know what I mean? Things like, it's again kind of putting value to what we consume. I love that we started with porn and now we're talking about utopia. The thing is, though, there's a large amount of the population supporting different political parties. Both sides think they are right and the other is wrong. So taking good steps is subjective. I think the true answer is compromise between them. Well, obviously, like that's yeah, yeah. It's like it's kind of hard to have a compromise between the greedy and the needy, because that's kind of what it is. Like the greedy are the extremist right wing that are just like, I've worked hard for my money. Probably somebody that came from money, that hasn't had to work a physical work in their life, and they probably do physical work more as their hobby or their sport rather than like wake up at 4 a.m. every day and like tend to their fucking fields. There's very few people from one spectrum of the political society that are capable of doing that. And then you've got the other, which are the needy. I don't like to use that word, but in this concept, it is what it is. And they are they need land, they need to stop being literally forced to use pesticides that are harming our earth, to be able to have a circular creation consumption of their produce. Like we are living on GMOs, we are living on artificial food and drinks. I mean, look at the culture war between the Democrats and the Republicans in the US. There's such a polarization. Exactly. But like, how would you be able to like level the playing field between them two? Like I find that kind of difficult to understand. Like how do we? I really want to find my fucking notes because they were really, really good. But yeah, I think it's I feel like we're in a global sticky situation, and I don't know why I keep on going back to prostitution and the sexual kinky underworld that continues to exist, because I feel it is the backbone of this secret world that's so in our faces today, but it's so taboo to actually find a solution. You know, it's either like make sex work illegal, or it's like very extreme, you know, instead of being like, there is like, go on Chatterbait and you will find at least fucking, I don't even like, I'm still on the fence whether I even think it should be like legal or taxed. Like obviously it should, because it is like, you, like I said, there's at least 1,000 people on Chatterbait stream, like creating content today, and then for every person that's like creating content, there's at least 5 to 1,000 people on each video, you know. And it's obvious, I feel, but then it's like the whole world of like taxation and stuff. I would feel more comfortable to tax things if it was going back into the system of the people who are being taxed, you know, like in Colombia you get taxed and there's no free healthcare, there's no free education, there's barely any, like, yeah, it just kind of goes into the pockets of governments that aren't really there for anyone other than to benefit themselves and be in a place of power for their peers, and not even have one thought of like how they're trying to support their country, but more just how to support themselves. When it's legal, we could make societal projections for them, both in the law and in security. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, kind of that's kind of where we end up going into the gray area of like child porn, you know, like, and also the deep web. Like, I've not managed to like explore enough that world, but yeah, there's, I kind of feel bad. Like, this is probably like the shittiest first episode. I'm so sorry for everyone that's like actually stayed and listened to this. I promise next week when I do this, I will come with facts and notes and points, and I'll take you on a really beautiful journey. And yeah, I feel that there's, I kind of want to go back to the whole tempo thing, you know, like the essence of what sex is and what it means, and that education of release of physical need and tension, you know, like again, I was listening to this podcast called The Oldest Profession, and it's these two chicks, obviously white American privileged chicks, to have entered the porn industry of their own accord, and their own interest and desire to sort of to monetize their sexuality. And I feel they talk about, they have really good episodes. Actually, they talk about the history of sex. They every episode is about a prostitute's story and how they survived within the legalities and the context in each moment in history, um, and how they overcame, I guess, their predicament in their economical situation of being a whole, you know. Properly managed governments are able to help people with their troubles, as it's their job to govern. Plus, governments help fund health services, police, fire service. So I think governments can do a lot. Yeah, I do. I 1,000% agree with that. We are living in a moment in time where a lot of governments, mainly in the third world countries, are not doing that though. Like, you come from the UK, babe. Like, we're used to being able to have an issue, go talk to a councillor, go talk to a mayor, go talk to a representative of your political party, and find a various entities that are stemming from governments, that have government support and can help people in difficult times. But in third world countries that system does not exist, it exists from a very kind of like charity basis. And although charities are amazing concepts, I don't feel they're the right concepts, because I feel they're mainly charities are for, they're kind of, I just feel like they're kind of an oxymoron, where they're just like, yes, give us all this money and we'll help people, but then they end up spending it on commercials, they end up spending it on the people that going out to help the people to make a commercial. The and it's just, I'm not saying this about all of them. Obviously there's amazing charities that have done amazing things, but I feel like I've done a lot of voluntary work in Africa and India, and I felt, and here in Colombia, and I feel like a lot of charities come from like a self-sustaining situation of people who are already like working class or above, rather than integrating a lot of that wealth into supporting something. And that can come from like an egotistical perspective, or it can come from like the dynamics of politics within that country that don't actually let these charities evolve in a way that can support educationally, or can support financially a lot of people. So yeah, like there's a lot of corruption, like you said, in third world countries, and mismanagement, because yeah, everyone's just out for their self survival. And I guess coming back to your whole utopia point, like we're not really going to ever find or have a utopia if we're not willing to see eye to eye and identify as like a whole planet. But then like you can be, there's such a fine line there, because then you've got like New World Order, woo, and then you've got people that are genuinely scared of what can end up happening with um, governments, corrupt governments, being in charge of a planet. Because essentially, if we're going to be kind of real about it, there is a handful of governments that are in charge of the planet, and it's kind of probably why we're going into this kind of tense third world war animosity and pandemia situations, because it is these great countries that are like, okay, shit's getting out of hand, people are getting smart, more people are being able to change the structures that be in ways that they probably can't control. And instead of, I always kind of use it as like the example of like a child, like if you had more, I know this sounds nuts, but like if you had more like innocence in politics, like if you had um younger entities actually saying like, hey, I kind of feel like this in my education, or hey, like I feel kind of like helping to make decisions, obviously not making decisions, but I believe that the way technology is developing younger generations so much faster, there is going to come a moment in time that like the average, like politicians, what are like 40 youngest and then upwards, and their views, perspectives, and experience of the world are so different to even what I've had, or anybody younger than me. Like there's teenagers here that are so smart, um, and they have kind of their hands tied as to like the direction this world's going into, and they have no say, and how can they create that voice when there's like TikToks and shit like that, like distracting them. And obviously there's amazing information, there's a lot of support there, but it's like you really need to be somewhat educated as like a teenager, and kind of have an idea of who you are and what you want to be and how you want to evolve in the world, to be able to support a political yeah, I don't know. A mix of young and old, yeah, but I don't think a lot of people should be involved in major decisions. I don't. I'm not saying they should make the decisions, but I do believe they should be involved in them. You know, I feel the sooner we start talking to our adolescents like adults, the sooner they'll be smart enough to take on these decisions. You know, and I'm not saying that they will have to do it. Like, it's kind of going back to what I was talking about family, you know, like you need a whole family to create a seed, you know, like obviously we're living in a time where parents are separated. There's very few families that like have their whole family around for Christmas, and it's seeing very, very more scarce. Yeah, political knowledge. The young people have less wisdom and life experience and political knowledge. Yeah, I get that. But I feel, again, it's kind of coming down to the education. Like, there's so many new ideas that we really need, you know? Like, you can learn at school a good political history and come up with ideas that, like, would have never been thought, you know? Um, because, well, if you've already lived a life and have all these experiences and you've got a routine and you've seen these things work, you've seen these things fail, you'll have a construct in your mind that you're just like, okay, well, this is just the way it is. But we need new ideas, we need new perspectives. And it's kind of annoying because a lot of the older generations have the answers. They're just choosing not to, they just don't want to like give them to us, you know? They like huge political structures know that putting land to work, you know, is what, yeah, they don't care. Exactly. They don't care. And they're just thinking like, okay, well, I've got so many years to live. And I want to live it like feeling great and feeling powerful. You know, they don't think like, okay, well, our country has X amount of land. You know, these are one of our most great produces, but like we have so many people living. We need to create so much food. Like, example, pandemia happens again. Like, if you're Spain, you're fucked. Like, what are you going to live off? Oranges and olive oil, which is becoming scarce now because their lands are so dry. So how are they going to import stuff when all the borders are closed again? So it's kind of like that system. It's kind of like, okay, so how does each country become independent with what they can produce specifically and independently? And then from there, how can we interact with other countries to create a trading system? You know, I feel like that is the basic human need and direction that we should be going in, and kind of like every country for themselves. And then once every country has mastered that, um, it's time for trading, you know, because then it's like, okay, our people are good, our people are educated, our people are healthy, um, our people are evolving independently, and now we're like ready to fucking share this knowledge. We're ready to like give a little bit of ours so we can have a little bit of yours, and do these exchange systems and produce and knowledge and etc. We've put too much emphasis on the individual. IMO, what's IMO? People only care about themselves and immediate family. We haven't alchemized a safety, empathetic worldview that doesn't leave you in last place. Exactly. Yeah, in my opinion. Okay, cool. Thank you. Um, yeah. Well, like I don't know how long you've been watching for, but that's kind of what we were talking about in the beginning. Just with education again, like I'm interested to see how the education system evolves from where we're at. I feel we're in a turning point. We do need more humanism orientated ideology in politics and social values. Yeah, like I remember when I was younger, I totally thought that instead of being taught history, like before we're taught history, we should be taught like language and more than one language. Definitely every school should be taught like in Sweden, Finland, and most of Scandinavia, they speak like three languages from birth. Like Finland speaks because it was part of Sweden. They learn Swedish, they learn Finnish, and they learn English like from primary school. They're like trilingual. Boom. And that's the perfect time to do that. And I think it's important. I think it's necessary. So I think language is really important. I feel creativity is also really important. Just like I'm talking like primary one and like nursery, and it's on the parents. Yeah, again, I was mentioning that as well before that we're giving a lot of our education away to. But again, it comes to the whole economical structure and I think responsibility. I think that's maybe one of the first things humans in this day and age need to understand and learn, like responsibility. We are all somewhat irresponsible because we live on a monetary basis. Like if we were responsible, we would be living off land and we would be feeding ourselves off what we produce, you know? Um, Currently we have a lot of materialism in our media and values. Yeah, exactly. Like if we lived in a responsible culture and a responsible mindset, we'd be like, okay, so what's the most responsible thing to do for myself right now? Come pandemia, come World War III, come apocalypse, whatever. To me is like, how do I feed myself and my family? And like right now it's like find a way to make money so you can buy food, steal food, beg, borrow, or steal, or the other one is land. Like have a community, have a family where you can live off land. We don't though. We really do overestimate people. Exactly. So I'm kind of like, how do we become more responsible? Not just for ourselves, but for our community, And I was kind of going back to what I was saying, like have a walk around your neighborhood and how many buildings are empty, how many buildings are for sale, how long have they been for sale for? The same with the renting, like the housing crisis globally. I've noticed that I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot of the world and I just see such beautiful empty buildings all the time everywhere I go. And then I see people in the street and I'm just like, this doesn't make sense, like this gorgeous building could be restored by the government and put into an educational system. It could be put into a greenhouse, for a city organic food. Like there's so many options that we're, as a human race, educated and like smart enough to know that we need as basic responsible needs as humans, but no one's willing to make the decisions to make that happen because the social construct of what it should be is and I think that's what annoys me the most about everything is just that we have the answers to fix this situation, just nobody is, like literally nobody is willing to be like, okay, well this is the one we're going for because so Latin America recently has had a huge no votings and a lot of them have gone left wing. I'm not like really excited about that. Obviously there's a lot of good things about that, but I just feel going completely left wing doesn't really take you to the utopia that you think. But I do believe that I think it is okay. So for example, a left wing politician has just come in and it's like, okay, we're gonna do this great thing, and it's kind of like all politics because everybody comes in saying like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do and we're going to make everything great again, everything's going to be amazing, but then they're met with the actual political structure where all their ideologies can't be met because there is another side that is against them, that all the answers that they believed they had, that they could make things better, fall not under their country's constructs, but they fall under this global construct of what we live in a society. It's like, so Colombia produces XYZ for all these countries and we are indebted like Colombia's kind of like America's bitch, like for a long fucking time, and it's really like our last president really fucked up our system before the new president, who is um, left wing lenient, and it's precisely that. It's like the whole entire system that he's only got 4 years to be able to dismantle, and fuck knows if a conservative guy comes in afterwards and just wipes all his work out. So it is kind of like this shooting yourself in the foot, depending like on people to fix situations that we should kind of be somewhat um, responsible for ourselves, and yeah, it's really fucking hard, it's I get really distressed from it because I'm just kind of like, oh, what can I do? But my little seed in the kind of mental sphere of what this all is kind of first coming on here and chatting about it, and then secondly through selling fashion, which is the only thing that I'm passionate about. Um, exactly. The mention the havoc that it would wreak on those already dwindling economies. Yeah. Um, so like I when I did my voluntary course, like my voluntary work, kind of 3 months in India, I was working with street kids, orphans, and kind of looking after girls in a kind of an after day school, and while their mothers were working, and it was an eye opener. It was really kind of just like, whoa, wow, this situation is really hardcore. I don't really know how to take, like, how can I be a change to what I'm living right now? How can I help support a, a systematic change in this world? And I was like, well, first of all, I need to find something that I'm passionate about, and make that what wakes me up every single day, and be like, okay, well, come at me, I'm going to be passionate about fashion. And then when I kind of learned about the actual real world of fashion, that it's like the second pollutant globally, it's one of the biggest slave labor um, contributors, and I was like, fuck, like there's a lot of work to do here, and at least I'm passionate about it, so I can keep on going through, taking on like the hard shit, and still be like animated to continue in making a change towards it. So for now, like my dream and my goal is to just sell clothes that I make with various kind of messages, and kind of topics of conversation with them. Currently porn at this moment in time. And from kind of like evolving that, I would love to have my own textile manufacturing company. Ideally would like to be working with hemp, as it's one of the most sustainable textiles that you can work with consumption to water, and the actual organic process of creating it into from plant to textile. So I was like, okay, well, start from, oh hey, so yeah, I was kind of like, this is something that I can evolve from. Is it in Taiwan where you have to be from Taiwan to buy land? Which I think is kind of another thing that's really important, especially being half Colombian, and a lot of international entities right now are buying a lot of land, and that's not good, like, because I don't believe that it's going to, for example, I was watching something, they were like, oh, Norway and Canada, they're like so green, they're so eco clear, they're so XYZ. And then I was like, wait a minute, isn't Canada like one of the biggest owners of like really corrupt produces of water in Colombia? Like they steal a lot of our water, paid for obviously, but the way, and they contaminate a lot of Colombian land because they have bought it and they've been do you know what I mean? But they're Canada, they're so green, they're so this and that. And I was just like, hold on a minute. Like, just because on their land they're not doing it, but because they've come here and bought a whole load of land, they don't give a shit. You know, like they completely contaminate, they completely use whatever they want and they don't give a shit. Canada is not the country people. Exactly. It really, really isn't. And let's not get onto the euthanasia chat because that's fucking petrifying. So yeah, I think I'm kind of interested. No worries, Neil McFlurry. Hopefully see you next week and follow me on Insta if you want to catch up on a lot more better conversations with notes and points. So yeah, nice to meet you. Take care. So yeah, I feel that's a kind of something that needs to be addressed, and unfortunately, it's kind of like our country turning around and being like "fuck you," which I don't know. Does that turn into war? Like that's kind of hard to say. Like I can't really tell how what direction that'll kind of go in. Do you know what I mean? Like if what would happen if Colombia turned around to the States and Canada and says, "Hey, we're gonna stop producing shit for you. Your money doesn't mean fuck all to us, and we're gonna." Exactly. Like, how ballsy is our left wing governments now in Latin America willing to turn around and say to these profits, these economic needs, you know, when I feel we're a very wealthy company in produce, you know, like we have so much food here. We have so much, like, Colombia has such a diverse landscape that you can literally grow any fruit, any vegetable from anywhere in the world here. Oh, this is Sky, by the way. Sky, Sky, say hi. Sky, say hi. So yeah, I feel that's kind of like an interesting dynamic that will probably over time. Colombia has so many girls on campsites. Why is that? Hey, Luna, if you were here at the very beginning of the conversation, that's kind of where this whole entire chat started. I was talking about my personal experience within the webcam industry. No, thanks for joining. You can follow me on my Instagram where I'll be doing these chats organically every week. And I will also be doing a live shibari show. I don't know if anybody knows what shibari is. But yeah, there is a lot of Colombians on webcamming, and it was kind of why I got into it because I just wanted to understand the industry. I wanted to understand why so many. I'm half Colombian. I'm half Colombian, half Scottish. It's so weird that you asked that. Like, why? What made you ask that? I'm so in. So yes, the conclusion. Personally, I believe it stemmed a lot from the kind of narco culture and the narco industry, where girls would and it's a very glamorized over here. Like there's literally a webcam university in Medellin, and I think the narco industry kind of stemming from the 80s, like where girls from underprivileged areas would be given an opportunity to go to the States to make their life better for themselves by filling their tits and ass up with coke, you know, and it was just the easy way out, you know, it was the quick, easy opportunity. And I think the reggaeton, the narco culture, which is huge in Medellin, it's an aesthetic, you know, it's a very kind of like way of life, really. You know, it's really been industrialized out here, the webcam world, and it's become just so accepted. Not by everyone, obviously, but there is like just this kind of like, well, worst comes to worst, you can go into that, you know? And because of global politics, I think people are influenced in these kind of worlds at a very young age. I often get into privates with Colombian girls and literally ask them to sniff coke. It turns me on when they do that. Kind of my fetish. Cool. Love that you're like, I'm streaming on 5 sites right now. I'm on Chatterbait. I'm on Theta, Odyssey, YouTube, and Twitch, and that's coming from Twitch. Interesting. um, cool. Everyone has a fetish, and again, like this is kind of where most of these conversations are going to be lying within the kind of kinky underworld. I am really passionate about unveiling this world in a safe way for everybody involved, in a way that we can evolve together and find the respect and the needs that we need within these industries, you know, like I guess you missed the beginning. I'm recording these videos and I will be uploading them to my YouTube and to my Odyssey channels. So you guys are more than welcome to chat there, send me messages. Okay, but safe and realistic, right? Like, it's so hard. Like, it's taken me a lot of time and guts to get to this point and be like, fuck. Um, I like I've been scared because I don't want to cause anybody I care about harm, you know. And like I said, there's a really indoctrinated society with sex work here in Colombia, and it does again come a lot from. I also noticed that trans Colombian girls are more addicted to drugs than other cis females. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Like I said, so the sex work industry here in Colombia is huge. Like there is whole neighborhoods, like, and I mean a whole fucking more than one neighborhoods where they're just dedicated to sex, you know. Any action you take will cause harm. I've lost many friends this way, and it's not just in Colombia, it's Brazil, Peru, Chile, all of it. Yeah, exactly. It's many countries, many countries, not just Latin American countries. I feel Latin American countries, because strangely, being Catholic majority countries, we have a kind of different perspective and liberty towards it. Liberty is so the wrong word to use, but as I was saying, like there is whole neighborhoods that are completely dedicated to this industry, and you see, and it kind of tears me apart a little bit. I kind of wish that I don't wish, I wish I didn't have to delve more into the industry to find a answer. But I did feel like if I continued down that road, I would be causing more harm than good. But boy, Colombian trans are hot as fuck. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. But that, see, the whole trans Colombian thing again comes with the narco aesthetic. You know, it comes with getting your tits. You know, like if you do this job, you will get your tits, you will get your this, you will get your that. Gaze into the void. Exactly. Like I feel like I was gazing into the void too long, and I was just trying to find answers in a kind of desperate sense. And being half Scottish as well. Yes, I'm in Bogota. Like being half Scottish, it was kind of hard to kind of get into the deep rooted points of this conversation, because like I always thought that I was going to go on Chatterbait and kind of maybe do this type of thing, but maybe because I did a lot of Vogue, a lot of my friends are Voguers. I don't know if you've heard of Vogue. It's a kind of trans orientated dance from New York, kind of like Afro descendant, Latino descendants in New York dancing Vogue, like the Madonna evolution of this Vogue culture. So I was like, oh, I could do dance routines, I could do la 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 la. And then obviously, like if you're on Charbait and OnlyFans, you're gonna end up doing something or other if you really need the money. Point blank, like that's the situation, and that's kind of all it ever ended up being for me. I was helping. I'm also from a Hispanic country. I was helping where I'm from with drug addictions. It soared my view on people and their inhibitions for a long time. Latin America is such a horrible state. Just don't want that for you, babe. Like I've gone in, I've come back out, I've gone back in, I've come back out. Like thank you. Like I really appreciate that. Um, yeah, I think what was hard for me before I kind of said like fuck it, I'm just gonna like do OnlyFans, I'm gonna do Chatterbait because I almost felt like I needed to gain that respect from my peers because I had all these ideas of like how to get them out of it. Um, I'd travel to Colombia, but honestly, I have strong feelings. I'd catch HIV or chlamydia or some STDs if I was there. No comment. Yeah, like I feel it was really hard for me at some point because I was like, oh my God, I have so many amazing, talented friends in Colombia. And I would compare them to like my amazing, talented friends in Scotland. And I'd be like, well, my amazing, talented friends in Scotland, like they go to college, they go to uni, they get a sponsorship by XYZ, they travel Europe, they do this, that, blah, 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 and they have all these amazing opportunities that don't exist here. And I was like, okay, well, fuck it. I've got like this dual nationality. I can use it. Let's create something creative together and take it to the next level. Let's create a new platform, identity, and form of. I'm not better or anything than anybody. I'm just when you've lived through it with them, like you just understand how indoctrinated it is here. You know, like for example, if you're a dancer, if you're an artist, and you have no other sign or form of income, and you need something with flexible hours, and you need all these other things, like it's an indoctrination. Like you learn from an early age because of this narco culture that's installed of you. It's like you sell drugs, you take drugs, you sell your body, you make money, and you survive. That's it. Like you, that's just the only survival that you're indoctrinated into believing that exists. You know, you don't say, oh my God, like I live on a farm with my family, I'm going to be able to like educate myself, because there is free courses, which is something that I want to like I grew up a lot in the country in Colombia, and I have a lot of friends out there, and um one of the kind of main goals with my fashion is to um support their education so that they can start cutting out middlemen with their produces, with their family's produces from their land. And it's just being able to be like, okay, well, we make so many fucking potatoes and we're going to sell it to XYZ because it's organic, it's that white. And the middleman just disappears, you know? They have to find something else to do with their life. Um, there's no yeah, do what you have to do to live. There's no other way. I can try and show North Americans and Europeans how it is. It's really hard. Like it took me, like there's a saying in Spanish like a las patadas. Like I had to learn a las patadas what this industry is here in Colombia. And I think it's something that it really frustrated me with my friends in the UK, you know, because I see my friends here struggling to survive from this industry, which they have been educated is the only opportunity they have to get to the next level, of sustainability of your own life. Um, and then I just see my friends who could be working in a very well paid bar job, like a bar job here. You'll be lucky. You'll be lucky if you work in a bar job here that gives you enough money to work to pay your rent. Like, and that's without bills, that's without food on your table. Like, you're but in the UK you have a bar job and you have a really nice flat, you have a car, you go on holiday every few months, it's just a completely different dynamic. So I'm just kind of like, how do we make both parties understand this? And again, it comes to both the person who creates and both the person that consumes, and I'm just kind of like, how do we evolve these needs, these human needs, these dynamics? And I'm not just talking about somebody who needs sex to like release whatever tension they have in their body, but like somebody who needs a financial stability to be able to eat and live. Besides camming, do you IRL stuff for the right amount of money? Well, before I started camming, I had OnlyFans. As I spoke about this a wee bit at the beginning of the video. I had an OnlyFans, and that's where I started. And then obviously it was a lot more financially stable to have Chatterbait because I could get more followers, it could be live, blah blah. I do still have it active. I have not uploaded any new content. I am going to keep it as is for the next 6 months. No IRL. What's IRL? URL? Like the link? So I am going to keep that content on there in real life. No, 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 no. I don't think I could do that. Like, I think it was a lot safer for me. It's just more than anything, just safety. Like if it has to do with a sexual context, like I don't feel comfortable or safe, just kind of not even for the right amount of money. Thank you. I've had offers, um, and stuff, but to me, I would really appreciate that people want to see me in real life for my mind, for um, you should keep talking politics because you bring a very important aspect of and point of view to this whole baby que pasó, my puppy's whinging. I really like this talk, and I really feel camaraderie here with you, as you're probably the only person I know that understands what's really going on. It's hard, babe. Like paragraph on me. It is hard because I feel like everyone understands what's going on. Just nobody's willing to say it. Nobody's willing to address that we need to find a better system for everything, for our underground kinks consumption, for our um, food, water, need consumption. Yeah, nobody wants to take accountability, and I feel like there's just so much dark, rooted, connected, corrupted history with these worlds that as soon as you kind of like lift that tin of worms, we're going to be completely infested, and everyone's petrified of that. Everyone's petrified of having to wade through that shit to get through to the other end, to stop putting people in harm and to start finding a justifiable way to support people. I really recommend the world's greatest. I'll put it in the description when I upload the video onto Odyssey and YouTube of this YouTube this podcast on Spotify. It's these two chicks, and they talk about prostitutes in history that have done really like changed the system or perspective, or have survived in an alternative way than just the regular sex work. So yeah, I feel it is going to be hard, and I think the hardest part of uncovering and how to evolve the underground world, which I feel a lot of people like the community of what's it called, uh shibari. So I don't know if anybody knows what shibari is. Shibari is it's a pardon me. Shibari is old Japanese torture. Yeah, Japanese bondage. So when I was going through this kind of like webcam world, and I was working at studios, they're like, oh, these are all these different types of things that you can like attract people to your show. Dance, twerk, this, that, the next thing. And I got into shibari, and I kind of really enjoyed it because it was a very meditative and kind of like seeing what my body can take, without having being penetrated, put it that way. Like I don't have like nothing of penetration when I do my shibari shows. And like I said, I will be doing live streams of my shibari shows and uploading them onto my Odyssey and YouTube as well. And they started within the community of BDCM in Bogota, and I got to meet a lot of amazing people. And that's when I first started to kind of understand this new dynamic of how we consume fetish and how we consume these different um like likes and sexual tendencies in life. I really appreciated, like I started to get into spanking, and I was like, cool, there's like a whole art to spanking, and I was I am still so grateful to being introduced to that world in such an educated way. Like I since being in that world, like I was so lucky that I ended up meeting the pro of pros in Colombians Shibari kind of network, and he's the only person I've worked with. I've only worked with one other girl who he invited from Peru for Shibari week in Bogota, and like if he hadn't told me to work with her, I wouldn't have done it because I just trust him. Like we've done shows in prostitute whorehouses in Bogota. We've done shows in like fairs and tattoo conventions. Like we've done a whole world of shibari performances, and not once have I ever felt in danger. And it's very easy to feel like you're in danger when you're tied up for like a good half an hour to 45 minutes is probably the length of one of our shows. That's how much my body has been willing to take so far. So yeah, like I was really lucky to meet people within the BDSM world who were educating me. They were just like, there's a whole, there's the aftercare, there's the consent, there's safe words, etc. And just being aware of people who are there to take advantage and people who are there to have an experience, like there is a need for fetish, and there is a need for human stimulation where we need to release and understand certain things about our energies and our bodies. And I was lucky, like they showed me that you can do it in a safe environment, you can do it in an educated way, whereas like when I was in webcam, it was like you do what it takes to get the money. It's like if somebody says jump, somebody says this, somebody blah 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 blah. And then there was other webcam studios that were just kind of like, okay, well, these are the options. There was another webcam studios like you don't take your clothes off if you're not in private, blah blah blah. And there was just all this information that was just like, this is like an industry. This isn't just like any old fucking like, oh, I'm gonna walk down the street and fuck someone for money. And that's education. All these perspectives and all these levels are education. And unfortunately, it's not accessible to everybody. Like this world of OnlyFans and Chaturbate is accessible to everybody, but the education behind it is like you really need to do your own homework. And that's coming from me, who's like barely just skimmed the top of it with what experience I've had, which what I've been willing to divulge myself into. So yeah, like more than anything, and it's also why I'm streaming on Chaturbate as well as Twitch and all the other ones, is because at the end of the day, I do want to reach out to people who have been consuming me in that way and find what is their perspective. You know, what do you guys feel about what I've been talking about? It's mainly been Twitch users that have been responding, but I'm kind of interested in the viewers that have continued to listen to all this have feel about it, because they're all you're obviously here for one particular thing. So I am interested to see how I with you can find a way to evolve this, you know, into a safe environment, and kind of not look to government entities and legalizations. Like if it doesn't come from us, it's not going to happen, you know. And protesting to me is just so dead. Protests are dead, you know, like it doesn't do anything. It was a waste of time. You know, privileged people have time to protest because they don't have to work to eat. Like I noticed that during the Colombian protests last year. I don't know how you could do that. I only ever dom one-on-one. This whole learning from a group of people makes me nervous, because maybe because I just don't like most people. Yeah, I've kind of gone through my ups and downs. I'm such like I love humanity, and then I'm just like I hate everyone, and like I love blah blah blah. But yeah, protesting is for fucking privileged people. You know, like if you have the privilege to not go to work that day and walk up and down the streets and say a whole bunch of things for whatever you need, um, and so yeah, like for me, that's kind of yeah, we need if we want to make a difference, and this sounds so fucking hippie, and I'm sorry for every anti-hippie that exists. Like we do need to make a difference for ourselves. We do need to make a difference for ourselves via education. We need to make a difference for ourselves via our personal needs and consumption, whether it be food, water, sex. Like they're the three things that dominate our lives, you know. Food dominates our life because we need to eat. Water dominates our life because we need water. Sex dominates our life because it's a basic human instinct. And because we don't live in a hunter-gatherer, energy extortion, release society anymore. We sit in an office and we pay for our food. You know, we don't farm it ourselves. Like we need to restructure those needs, those human instincts and like forces that we have. It's a little annoying. I'm trying not to be too hateful towards Canadian people, but holy moly, I've had some serious bad experiences with fair weather allies from there. We need to stop making people feel bad for not wanting to or not having sex. This is very true. Like, I want to talk about a personal experience with an ex that when I met him, he said to me, like, if it weren't for you, I would have probably become a Buddhist monk. And then, like, a week before we broke up, we were sitting with one of his friends, and I was working webcamming during all this time, you know, and he was totally cool with it, and because his dad also had a girlfriend who was working in webcam, and like at the end of our relationship, we were sitting with his friend, and I was kind of talking because I was like, I'm thinking about going celibate. I've been lucky enough, like for all of those you out there interested in my body count, I think it's like in my 20s. It's definitely not more than that, but I was so happy being with this person that I thought had the same ideologies as me, and I was just like, okay, well, my sex work is what I do here, and my relationship's what I do here. And we weren't like the most sexual, we were more intellectual relationship, which I really enjoyed and appreciated. Um, and I was totally cool. Like, if you needed that from someone else, like, go get it, but like, just be like comfortable enough with me, who you're choosing to be in a relationship with, to like make me feel comfortable. You know, like if I'm willing to make you feel comfortable, make me feel comfortable because you're a guy. You may have different tendencies and needs. That's cool, but like, I never actually ended up telling him that I wanted to go celibate, or I think I did, but it is something that I've been kind of like wanting to meditate, you know, like our brain is so powerful, you know, and if I can have an orgasm through a meditation or thought, like I've had really wild sex dreams and I've got off on them without even having to touch myself, you know, and that's like something that I kind of want to explore with my chatterbait crew. And it's a little noise, please. So am I going celibate? Yes, I am going to go celibate. This year, I yeah, like I last time I had sex was last year, which wasn't that long ago. But like beginning of December or something like that. You're not live on Chatterbait right now. Yeah, I am. It's Lick My Versace, but without the little underscore, because I did a Lick My Versace with the underscore with my last studio, and if I stream on that, they get all the money. Even though I have like 4 tokens from this whole chat, but I am live. Um, so yeah, if you want, I can like send you the link in the chat. Or no, if you look on my if you're on Twitch and you just look at my bio, I'll have my link tree and then I'll be there. So yeah, I'm definitely I've had clients literally come from being hung from their hands in a cage. It's totally possible. I have no problem with going celibate. Like I am a horny bitch. I'm not gonna lie. I do have my like pure. Says I'm not live. Hey, people in Chatterbait, am I live? I'll refresh. Um. So yeah, I think I'm definitely going celibate. Yes, I'm live. I'm having responses, and please can I say, oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Um, I don't go on that site, but if you're a horny gal, how do you expect to not lose your shit? Do you have a time frame? I'm super curious. Um, this is what I'm going through, and I've been kind of mentally going through it on my own because I am scared to talk about it with my friends. Just because a lot of people I do know are involved in that industry, and I don't want to make them feel bad about it because it's kind of what they live off of. So I feel like kind of rude being like, oh, I'm gonna go celibate because I have the privilege to do it, you know? Oh no, please, no need. Oh, thank you. Um, so yeah, I think my time limit is just what I'm willing to take. I'm not going to put like an actual like, oh, this is how long I'm gonna do it for, blah blah blah. But I think it'll be interesting to see maybe if if the celibate is going to mean that it's with someone else or if it's with myself. I'm still trying to evolve those urges. I'm going to see how long I can do like teetotal celibacy without even touching myself, because I kind of want to see if I can like meditate that energy and put it into something a lot more powerful and possibly useful in what I need to kind of evolve within myself. I know they're my friends, but como eso de la negatividad he sido como unos tópicos difíciles para conversar con mucha gente por acá, la verdad. Um, for a year and I was in a real online relationship. Funny enough, I was one of my best friends. Do you know what I mean? I feel like sometimes when you take sex out of the context within a relationship, it becomes so much more powerful because it's not your like go-to release, and your release ends up being like a lot more intellectual. And I was hoping I'm kind of sad like that never happened with my last relationship, because that's genuinely what I thought it was going to end up happening. I was really looking forward to having this intellectual relationship with someone that I really appreciated having in my life. Um, Also for hogging and making you read, but we had sex after we had that year of connection, and that was also the best sex of my life. That's amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like, that to me is something I kind of probably wish I'd done in my last relationship to maybe have a better relationship. And I regret not kind of sticking to my guns a little bit more with that. But hey ho, I learn. So you're saying sex with partner is no bueno. I'm not, no, 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 not at all. Like, sex with your partner is amazing. Like, if you have a great relationship, you should definitely have sex with your partner. I'm just saying for this particular moment in time of my life is I'm just ready not to. I'm thank you. Um a great relationship, trust. To me, a great relationship is trust. If you don't trust the person you're with, you're not in a great relationship. And I don't mean like trust them to not or to be with somebody else. I mean trust them with like your soul, like trust them with like your identity, trust them with like your innermost feelings, in a way that you would trust your best friend. Like, that is a great relationship. If you don't have that, you're not in a great relationship. And that goes to people that are just your friends. If you don't trust them, you're not in a great relationship. If you're in a business relationship and you don't trust them, you're not in a great relationship. So, yeah, it's be all and end all. Like, you can fuck up as many times, you can cheat on each other, you can throw like the biggest tantrums and have like the worst shit ever. But if you don't have trust, like, you're not in a great relationship. So that to me is just, that's a great relationship, pretty much. So I think, oh, you too, babes. I think, yeah, like, being half Latina, I have been in very heated relationships where cheating just is what happens. And I'm kind of over it. Like, I don't really care if that happens anymore. And that's where I kind of coming back to the whole trust situation. Like, if I don't trust that person, it's going to be really difficult for me to forgive them, But if I trust them, like, it's a lot easier for me to understand a certain situation. And obviously, working in webcam, it becomes a lot more like, it's not that I don't care if they cheat. It's just like working in webcam, like, you kind of understand the dynamics of a person's mentality and the need or the want to cheat. I don't agree with it necessarily. But I can't restrict people from their like impulses. And then again, like, it goes back to the whole trust situation. It's like, do I trust their impulses to be for like a certain reason? Or like, for example, like, one of my exes would always flirt with people when we would go out, and I'd be like, oh my God, stop flirting. And they would totally deny it, and that would piss me off. When I'd rather they just be like, oh, do you know what? She can get us tickets, or he can get us tickets to like this fucking event, or like, they're a really good contact. And sometimes you just need to be a bit flirty with people to like just get in their good books. What is it with us Hispanics and cheating? I know. You need to understand that men are meant to fuck different girls. It's just nature. Yeah, I get that. And that's why I'm saying, like, if there's trust and there's like this whole like, oh, being flirtatious with someone is cool, I get that. I agree with that. I don't judge that, but just don't deny it. And I hate that whole dynamic of like, oh, you're crazy, you're just a crazy girl because like you think I'm cheating or you think I'm flirting, and it's just like, well, I'm not stupid. I can see that you are. I just wish that you could be like confident within yourself and within this relationship dynamic to be like, yeah. And then I'd be like, cool. I'd be like, who are they? What do they do? And he'd be like, oh, well, they do this, 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 which is like beneficial for me in my life. And that's why I was a bit flirty. And I'd be like, do you know what? That totally makes sense. Because like sometimes I'm like that. Sometimes I go out and I chat and I have no intention of fucking anybody, but I might be a bit flirty because I'm like, cool, you're an interesting person. Hoo hoo. Like you chat in a different way when you're like attracted to someone. Point blank. Like that's life. That's like humanity. Like if you are attracted to somebody, whether it be their looks, their intelligence, their business, their ability, like you're gonna flirt a little, and you just can't take that away from anybody. And I feel like the more open and the more like relaxed you are with accepting that reality, especially if you're in a relationship and with your partner, it's just going to be a lot more healthier to like get through the day, you know? You know you don't like it that we will cheat on you. You are denying the fact that it makes you sad. Well, yeah, of course it's gonna make me sad. If like my guy turned up was just like, oh yeah, I just fucked this bitch because like I was horny, like it's gonna hurt. It'll hurt just as much as if I said it. Although I don't need to say it. Like I don't feel that need as guys do, you know? Yeah, well, because that sets such a bad precedent, because there are guys that don't do that and are more than willing to be devoted and faithful to you. I know there can exist those type of people. Kind of hard to find them in Colombia, or anywhere to be honest. Because I had a couple of exes in the UK cheat on me as well. So it's like I'm not surprised. Um, Yeah, they are really rare. See, the conflict here is that you want trust, but then when we give you trust, you get sad. Yeah, but like it's kind of like trust doesn't mean I'm going to be happy all the time. Like I just said, like we can get into huge arguments, we can get into this, we can get into that, like we can have differences, we can have conflicts. But I think I understand it from my dynamic here where, for example, working in the webcam industry again, like you'll see couples, like you'll see couples that are like ride or die, and they have to have a lot of fucking trust with the type of things that they get into in real life or on camera, because when you're in a certain situation and you're being offered money to do a whole different type of scenarios, like someone's like, hey, I'm seeing you on webcam, I'm coming to pick you and X amount of girls or you and your homies now because I want this live and I want this in front of me and I'm going to give you X amount of money. Like, it's a whole mentality check. Trust grows when conflict is handled well. I'm enjoying this. Thank, thank you. And yes, exactly. That's such a good point. Trust grows when conflict is handled well. It's kind of having that trust that like things are gonna get tough, things are gonna get hard. We're gonna hurt each other. We're gonna say and do things that like a lot of people will not be able to come back from. But if you like, it's a sensation, it's not just like point white or black, like trust, it's just like I'm in a relationship and I'm in a monogamous relationship with someone and then they go and fuck a whole bunch of people. Like, I am a human, I'm going to get sad, and but I trust them to do it without certain emotions. I trust them to do it with a certain thing, and I personally don't ever cheat on my partner. If I'm going into a relationship, I tend to make communication top priority. I get we're pretty rare breed though. I think cheating is useless. I think cheating is useless, to be honest. And I think that's why I want to kind of go through this kind of like as a horny bitch, go through this like celibacy and meditative process to be like, okay, well, what are all these monk dudes talking about that like you can program your like sensual energy into like a more powerful energy within yourself. And I'm trying to understand that. I hope you will all come in that process with me, as I will be doing these lives every Sunday. And on Tuesday, I'll let you know when I'm doing my Shibari live sessions as well. So I am I'm really interested to see how I overcome that sensual um part of myself. And then I'll just give you like my side notes and thoughts on how I understand it, how I've felt with it. I do feel like I'm a very like yoga spiritual person. I do feel a lot of energy sometimes when I'm doing those type of things. So are we getting a present on Charbate? Um, I don't know. I was like I said, I'm keeping my OnlyFans open. I do need to upload a lot of my private shows that I did on previously on my OnlyFans when I was working in a studio. So I have loads of videos that I need to upload onto my OnlyFans that will be available between the next 6 months to year. I will keep that content on there, but I am thinking after about a year's time taking all that content down and seeing where this chat and my personal creative life evolves into. Um, and for those on Chatterbait, to keep the kink up, no penetration and no masturbation will be involved, but I will be doing shower shows in the mornings pre this chat. So I think that's kind of the only present, and you will have to wait until next week. So yeah, I don't know. I might do one after this. Who knows? If you're super sexual active and used to getting it, I know. Sorry, used to getting it for yourself, it's going to be tough. Yeah, like I think that's going to be one of the hardest things for me during the celibacy for myself, because I really know how to satisfy myself. Like, and that's why I talk a lot about this whole kind of contents of having um child when I was like education, child education and sex education, that girls should be taught how to masturbate as well as guys, you know. I feel like it's really important that we are taught that we can um like release our tensions. Like girls, especially when they're on their fucking periods, we're wild, we're mentally fucking wild, and sometimes a wank just makes you feel better. And I just feel we're not taught to do that. We're just taught to be crazy. We're taught to lose our shit. We're taught to like create a huge unnecessary tension because of one fucking snap that went in our head because we're on our fucking periods, and our chemicals and our body is just going insane. And if you just had a wank, and I'm not saying this works for everybody, but it just makes you feel a little bit better and able to deal with whatever sensations you're feeling, you know? So I just feel kind of that that's going to be interesting for me. And yeah, I'm sorry that your erection's gone. I am trying to find other ways to keep the kink going. Um, we're in a pretty bad state sexually as a society. It's going to be tough to find someone willing to say that it's okay to wank to a kid. No, oh my God, I'm not saying, yeah, okay. But guys do it all the time. Like, how many parents, or how many, like, when you're a teenager, like, how many of you here found out that, and if you guys are watching all these videos like afterwards, please leave the comments, because I'm like so interested. Like, who told you how to wank or when to wank, you know? And it's such an open conversation for guys. Like, it really is. Whereas like for girls, it's so taboo. It's just like, don't touch that. Don't touch that. No, no, no. You know, whereas like I feel like it's just important to us as it is to guys. I feel like we need to be educated. Like, I'm gonna go for a pee and I'm gonna bring a jumper that I made. Oh my God, I've been singing the same thingy for 2 seconds. I don't know if any of you guys, sorry, I don't know if you could hear me. I don't know if you guys have been like heard about. I've been doing a fashion collection, and it's kind of like based on a whole bunch of porn that I found under my dad's bed when I was like a teenager. This one is called DIY. It's called Do It Yourself. It's just like a little cute crop jumper I made the other day. So yeah, Civil Daggers is the name of the brand, and then got my wee DIY girls there. So yeah, like with this collection, the idea is to thank you. The idea is to like bring up conversation, like create a conversation. When I was okay, so 2 seconds. Where is chun? No one told me anything. Corn came on the TV and I saw naked hips for the first time and I thought my willy was going to fall off. I knew was sex was. I didn't know anything. I didn't know thinking sexually would help me pitch tents. Damn, these guys are going to be no more free it. I love being naked, so that's why I said I'm gonna do like shower shows and charity and stuff. So I don't mind being naked. I really enjoy being naked. I like that. I don't mind, and my Instagram's like full of nudes as well. So yeah. When I was 13, my school teacher taught me how to wank. She was like 40, but damn, she had some nice feet. Wow, like that's do you know what I mean? That's such a common topic. Like older women. Does my dad know that I used the porn stuff? No, he doesn't. He never no. Like my dad had like hardcore dementia when I found them, so like he was it was over his head. But yeah, going back to like when you were 13 and a 40-year-old, like if that was a female and a male, the scandal. Do you know what I mean? So there's so many contexts, there's so many like things that need to be kind of like understood about these worlds that are just kind of like is so the line is so thin. The line is so goddamn fucking thin because like for a guy, a 13-year-old kid to be taught how to wank by a 40-year-old is just so normalized. But vice versa. Do you know what I mean? It's like, bro, that's like amazing, woo. But like if it's the other way around, it's kind of like, no, that's like molestation, you know. Because of her, I have a foot fetish till this day. Yeah, I'm starting to think there's a way more female predators than we think. Not like definitely there's a lot, and you find that out like webcamming. You know, like strangely enough, it's the female users that come on when I've been streaming that are a lot more aggressive. Like, yeah, like the guys are just like, hey, how are you? Like, tell me about you. Like, genuine, like, it's so weird because you'd think the guys would be like, right, get on your knees and fucking do this and blah, 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 when I see you fucking hurt. But the only people that have said that to me have been female. And guys are genuinely really sweet. Like, they want to get to know me. Obviously there's gonna be hardcore doms that like hard and dirty and stuff, but they will find their sub girls to do that, like their submissives. But like with me, I've been lucky that I've had really beautiful guys that are genuinely interested in talking to me, and like I think that's what's given me a little bit of confidence in like streaming this via Chatterbait as well, is because there's been a lot of people that are like, oh hey, like who are you? What'd you do? Like what's your story? And then they're like, let's have a wank together, and it's a lot more like together, like which I thought would never happen because I thought being on Chatterbait was just going to be like, guys, get on your knees and give me this. Like the majority of my followers and users on Chatterbait have been really sweet and kind and genuine and have just wanted to share a moment with me, you know, and I really appreciate that. Like, I thank you. I really appreciate that because it humanized the users to me. Because when I went into it, I was just like, these are just fucking asshole guys that just want my body and blah, blah, blah. But it's not. Like, it really humanized it to me to the point that it's just like, these are everyday people, you know, with families, they're on their own, and a whole bunch of, and don't get me wrong, there's obviously been the occasional asshole, you know, that's just like, you fucking pathetic Latina bitch, like, you know, I can buy you and whatever. But it's really been once in a blue moon, and mainly women who have been kind of more aggressive. So to me, that was really strange. I found that really interesting, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for that experience. And yeah, like I did have, well, I did chat a bit originally with a friend who was gay. So a lot of his followers were gay, and he'd been doing it for a lot longer. And that was kind of it was a strange dynamic. And I don't recommend it. I think it's probably a lot better to do it on your own or with someone who you really fucking trust, you know, and that was like a friend, you know. Well, yeah, I don't really go into anything without trying to like learn something from it, you know. You only live once, YOLO. So I feel like it's important to learn from whatever experience you're willing to throw yourself into. So yeah, and I think this is why I'm in this kind of new quest of interacting with people on a sensual topic and evolve together in an intellectual way, um, I guess. But yeah, there's just, yeah, I feel like there's so much to like divulge in this. Like, oh, I wish with your, I know I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. I think I'm kind of more than anything. I'm I'm hoping that when I do I'm thinking routine wise, it's like have a wee shower, have like a wee pre, or maybe like even a post after these chats, like because it's Sunday and I haven't had a shower yet, so I'll probably just to say thanks to everyone on Chatter who has managed to stay on this long, and listen to my hoo ha. Um, don't get too excited because there won't be any masturbation or yeah, I'll just be in the shower giving you a little wet kinky dance. Um, so yeah, um, I think I I'm hoping that people aren't rude because they're not necessarily getting what they want. Um, and I kind of look forward to. I was nervous. I genuinely thought I was just going to start this chat and nobody was going to talk, and I was just going to like go around in circles because I couldn't find my notes and try and find interesting things to talk about. Um, but I'm actually really grateful for especially the Twitch users who have come in and given me their perspectives and their ideas, and I hope to continue chatting with you and a lot more to yeah evolve. I feel like we're at such a pinnacle moment in time in history where this online digital world, whether it be just chatting or in a sexual sensual context, I look forward to exploring what all this means um, to you, what it means to me, and what it can mean for our future, you know. And more than anything, and I know this is such like a turn off for most people and so boring, but like what this means for like the safety of our kind of like our humanity, you know, like for our future evolution. Like next week, I'm going to, if I don't find my notes, I'm going to rewrite my notes, and I'm going to make sure that I kind of get down to my I'm going to get down to finding exactly what my perspective on history with prostitution and sex work is. I had really good ideas, had such good fucking notes. And as soon as I find them, I'm going to make sure that we talk about that in depth from a kind of really basic historical perspective, because I think it's a really good place to start. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge how we got here, and in like from ritualistic temples, to online consumption, like I want to, and I don't want to do it on my own. I'd love to share it with you guys and gals. So yeah, I think, yeah. I'm sorry, Lunar, for turning you off, but I hope that you intellectually got turned on. And yeah, like I don't know, I feel we are so smart. We're such, like I said, we're in such an awesome moment in time that I really look forward to kind of taking this bull by its horns, and yeah, just really exploring this shit. And like I said, I don't want to do it on my own. Like I've started this experience online. I feel like there isn't any other way to continue it. So yeah, I think with that, I've been on for a good couple of hours now. So yeah, God, 3 hours back. So sorry for those that came and gone. If you do end up watching this in future via Odyssey or YouTube, we're gonna just upload it the now, or I'll probably do it later on because I'm not quite sure how to do it. Yeah, it's been fun. I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate your comments, and I really look forward to going on this journey of evolution and a little bit of revolution with you all. And so yeah, till next time. And yeah, like I said, Linktree in all my bios. You can get me on Instagram, and feel free to comment, leave messages. Like, I really, really appreciate all of your time and opinions on this. And if you have any links, I'll put in the podcast link as well. So yeah, till next time, ciao for now. Bye. Boom.